information that was what was being shared from early in the pandemic.
And I think, did your group have its genesis in concerns about conspiracy theories arising out of the community response to the mosque events?
Yes, that was where I met Anko Richter, who was one of the people who started the group. She was reporting on the community response, and I was talking to her about the connection with the Great Replacement conspiracy theory that was referenced by the shooter.
Right. And I think when the COVID pandemic arrived, the group became closer and recognised the need for a space where people impacted personally by conspiracy theories could connect and learn. Is that correct?
That's right. We made a Facebook page we called Rabbit Hole Resistance.
And did that Facebook page deal, amongst other things, with COVID conspiracies?
Yes, at the time that was the primary form of conspiracy that was causing distress.
Can you give us some examples of the kinds of things that you were on that page?
Well, we were talking about how COVID was not a part of a global conspiracy to depopulate the planet, that it was not related to 5G. That sort of, like, some of the conspiracies were pretty crazy, but some of them were more believable. In that time, people were very suspicious of 5G.
And what sort of people would come to your Facebook group to talk?
There were people who were just frightened by the conspiracies, but quite a lot of people, possibly the majority, had family members becoming estranged or becoming very difficult because they had adopted conspiracy theories, and that was impacting their whole lives and their relationships with other people.
So out of the Rabbit Hole Resistance Facebook page, did the FACT organisation form?
Yeah, we decided we wanted to get together, become more official, make ourselves, communicate with each other so we could act on behalf of a group rather than just as individuals. And we became a charitable trust so that we would be transparent.
And were you attempting to act collectively by that stage?
Yeah, we made a communication group, and if we did anything, we discussed it and got agreement of the majority before we did anything. Actually, mostly everybody agreed anyway.
What were some of your early actions taken?
One of the first was to go out to an MIQ hotel, a couple of them actually, where there was a protest against MIQ, saying that was part of the global conspiracy, and just give the people working there a thank you letter so that they could know that not everybody was suspicious of them.
Can you remember any other topics that came in front of you?
Hang on a minute, sorry.
We
just got a bit lost for words. As the pandemic progressed and as the vaccine rolled out, yeah, there were a number of issues that we were worried about. We saw some anti-Asian and other racist stuff, always often as an undercurrent to the COVID conspiracy, and that was translated at the time of the Parliament protest into some racist and anti-Semitic graffiti. There was the conflation of anything to do with climate change as part of this United Nations World Health Organization attempt to to depopulate the planet. That's at the. Sorry, I'll just go on because I just lost my train of thought there. But at the beginning, there was a contention that the vaccines turned you magnetic. And a friend of mine told me her mum was terrified after she was vaccinated because a spoon stuck to her skin. So I suggested she dry her skin on the spoon carefully and try again. And of course, it didn't stick anymore. But, that was the sort of thing that people were being encouraged to believe. And my friend who's immune compromised could have been persuaded to not get vaccinated, and she would have been less safe.
Were there issues to do with the deaths from the vaccination or from COVID that you were involved in collecting information about?
One thing that I remembered noting was that on the Facebook page of a well-known vaccine skeptic, that there were suggestions that people who had died from the vaccine, and there was some reports that they had the families of people who had died unconnected to the vaccine were being harassed to admit that their family member had recently been vaccinated, and that was why they had died. And I also remember on that same page, the person who managed it was told about another commenter had walked past somebody in the supermarket and was convinced that the person she walked past had a vaccine injury. She didn't speak to them, but the suggestion was made that she report that to CARM. Yeah.
So when these topics came across your radar, what would you do about them?
Well, sometimes there were different things we did when we saw events that were being run by groups or individuals that were spreading misinformation about COVID or vaccines. We did try to deplatform them. We asked venues that they were using if they were sure that they wanted to host people with these sort of ideas, and sometimes the venues said no, we definitely don't want to host ideas like that. Sometimes we complained to professional bodies that these people were professionals. Sometimes we just shared a debunk of the information when it was well done. There was quite a lot of debunking of the most common information.
And just thinking about the debunking, I think, did you do that on your Twitter and Facebook pages?
Yeah, we used Twitter and Facebook, and we also had a web page where we shared often different kinds of information. Twitter is great for putting up a lot of different links. Facebook, not so much, but it's an opportunity to talk to people who want to respond to what you've said.
So what sort of links were you putting up? How did a link get to go up on your Twitter account or your Facebook account?
Well, we always checked what was said in the link first. We didn't just pick it because it was somebody that we liked or trusted, and we wanted it to be relevant. There's an American, I think he's a microbiologist, who debunked a lot of stuff, and then there were locals as well. There were I haven't really actually checked if they're okay with me naming them, but I guess as they were public, people like David Hood shared figures and numbers, and there was a selection of different things. We have Our Twitter threads are still there, so if people are interested, they can check the individual ones and see if they have a problem with them. And also a number of our threads are on Thread Reader, so they can be checked. And the Facebook page is open access, so people can see what we've said there.
And how did you check what you were sharing?
Well, if it was a video, we listened to it and we did check if there were any numbers mentioned. I mean, we're not super duper scientific experts, but most of what was shared was designed for an ordinary audience with some skill and sophistication about understanding things like means and standard deviations is probably the most complex thing. So we were able to check it, and we always did before we shared it. And we also checked it collectively, not just like me.
And what was your guiding principle as to whether you would share something online or not?
If it was useful, if it was relevant to whatever was happening in the moment, and if it was clear, I guess. Can't think of anything else we used.
Did you also talk on your social media pages about how misinformation can work?
Yes, when we realized that people were not really like inclined to just take on good scientific information and change their minds, we decided that another good strategy was what's called pre-banking, which is where you explain not what people are going to tell you, but how you are going to be communicated to. Right, there's lots of stuff about how advertising works to change people's minds. And if people realize how that is being used by some of these less reliable organizations, it inoculates them against being sucked into a funnel of disinformation.
Were you talking about things like critical thinking and logical fallacies?
Yeah, we tried to share how those can help you be a good consumer of information, so that there's quite a lot online about that, but we tried to choose ones that were accessible and friendly. We never wanted to sound like or actually make people feel bad for making a mistake about what they believed. We've all made mistakes about facts because that's the way humans work. But we wanted to help people be the most critical thinkers they could and not get distracted by, especially by the emotions that some of these bad actors got wrapped up.
So, what did you see in terms of people becoming upset and unkind to other people because of disagreements about information?
Well, people got upset with us, like on the Facebook page. They would begin by being very reasonable and asking questions, but they would also get quite abusive quite quickly. And that's just a background noise to what we do, really. That's why there are only 3 people on the board of the charitable trust, and there's only 1 person here today because we feel a bit vulnerable. And we actually got a somewhat threatening email this morning noting that we were appearing here.
So
sorry, I don't know if I answered your question there. I might have got distracted.
That's all right. Do you think that you manage to reply to each harmful conspiracy theory that you came across online?
Oh no, there were so many, and they have so many iterations. We tried to do ones that were important and ones that we could be convincing about. And there are so many conspiracy theories around, and some of them are quite harmless. I haven't seen any harm caused by the flat Earth theory. Not really conspiracy, but it's a mistaken theory. And there are other things that we don't really need to deal with. There was just the ones that were causing harm, that were interfering with people's making good decisions about vaccines for themselves and their families, making good decisions about masking, and, stuff like that.
Okay. Thank you. Did you have some positive responses to people who had approached your page expecting to disagree with it?
Yeah, I don't know if we changed these people's minds, but we certainly changed their minds about the fact that everybody in that anti-conspiracy space thought that they were awful for believing a conspiracy. That's absolutely not the case. Some real world events can only be explained by a conspiracy. It's just a matter of choosing the one with the best evidence. And sometimes it's just the way people have lived their lives and the backgrounds they have. We would never blame somebody for believing a conspiracy, but we do tell them that it's a conspiracy and why we think so.
All right. Did you put out public communications on a regular basis?
Yeah, we put articles on our webpage and shared them on our Facebook and Twitter, and we also have a regular newsletter now that will summarize all the things that we've been saying in the recent past.
All right. Thank you. Have you had some government assistance to assist with this project?
We had a grant from Internet New Zealand to help with combating misinformation online. And we had another grant from, DPMC, or some combination of those letters, to for the same thing, to help combat disinformation. Although, because we had capacity issues, we returned the majority of that grant at the end of the period.
So having managed these, or being part of a group managing these social media accounts and having these aims of combating misinformation and conspiracy theories during the pandemic, do you have any lessons, any things that you think could be done differently in the misinformation conspiracy space?
I think that the government made the decision not to engage with conspiracy theories, and I understand completely why they did that. But unfortunately, it did leave a big gap in that a lot of completely unacceptable stuff was left online with nobody talking about it. And one of our motivations was to just let people see that there was another side to that story, that it wasn't necessarily true if they said there were, piles of bodies after every vaccination clinic. I'm exaggerating here. Nobody said that. People needed to hear that there was another side, and that rational, ordinary people had another story to tell. I'm also a great believer that community organizations of many kinds, not just anti-misinformation ones, are very useful in spreading good information and also in helping people negotiate the complexities of something absolutely terrifying. I'm from Christchurch, so the earthquake taught me that.
Thank you, Ms O'Reilly. I'm just going to ask the Commissioners if they have any questions for you today.
Not from me, thank you.
Ms O'Reilly, you said that you had received a threatening email this morning because you were appearing before the Commission today. Did I understand that correctly?
Well, it wasn't terrifyingly threatening. It was mildly threatening. It told us, or possibly they just met me, that we would be subject to some tribunal with, I don't know, appropriate punishment or something. I can forward it to you guys if you like, so you can see what it's like. It didn't fill me with terror.
I would like you to send that to us, please. I won't ask you about the detail of it. I just have one other issue to raise with you, and it relates to the question of monetization of websites and other digital communication places where people might make money from spreading disinformation. Do you have anything that you can help us on that about?
Well, it's not really my area of expertise personally, but I do know that if you get a certain number of views on your YouTube video, you get money. I think you can also advertise, and of course you can associate yourself with products. So a lot of COVID misinformation people, I'm not sure I should say a lot because I don't know the numbers, but a significant number for sure, are associated with themselves or other groups that sell health products that are reported to help with COVID or prevent it. So there's an enormous industry of health products, and COVID misinformation has definitely boosted it.
Right. So there are two ways in which people could make money from misinformation. I'm sure there are more than that, but at least two ways. One is by promoting health products that are said to assist when you've got COVID. The other is perhaps to publish highly controversial information which gathers a lot of clicks onto your website, for which you might get rewarded by a provider. Have I got that right?
I don't know about the rewarded by provider. It might be that you need to have an arrangement to advertise stuff on your page. But and this is my ignorance. I'm not telling you that that's the way it is. You definitely can solicit donations and then pay yourself a nice, surprisingly large salary for doing the thing that you're soliciting donations for doing. So yeah, there are lots of other ways, I'm sure.
Did you have any experts that you consulted in relation to particular issues?
We had a couple of doctors. One of our trustees is a doctor. And if we had a specific question that needed an answer, we would have, I'm sure, consulted an appropriate expert, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. Mostly what we did was share information, information from appropriate sources anyway. So we didn't really need very much stick our necks out and say, this is the truth we are establishing.
Right, thank you very much, Ms. O'Reilly. That's been very helpful. Thank you.
We will now take a break. We have made up some time, so we will take a 30-minute break and resume again at 3:45.